Right. Hello, internet. Right. So, major thought. Hello, how are you? You guys are so fast. Well, did you read the description? Or maybe it's not even saying anything, but if you're following the streams for, then it might be informational. No, not really. I'm just working on my project. How about some music? I guess this is my signature tune. After that it's shuffled. Yeah, difficult things ahead. I have to concentrate. So I want the problem here is that left is linked to A1 here and left is linked to A2 on this side. And to fix that, I can swap these two in this vector, if that was a different vector than that one, otherwise I cannot make it different. And the result of that then should be, of course, that we get this backlinked to A2 again. Step 1. That thing has to be moved to the pipeline. Rather, let me think. Yeah, I am using it. Oh wait, board. Yeah, it must be moved to the pipeline. Oh, what is this? It looks like nonsense. What the heck is this? And what happens if I comment it out? Hello, Russia. I cannot pronounce your name. I can call you T. But yeah, that's about it. No, I don't know any Russian. Let me have a look here. What happens now? It still works, I hope. Holy shit. That was needed. Okay, that's really annoying. Yep, not working. This is needed. Why the hell is this needed? Yeah. Well, it depends if you want to write it. It's a colon Q to just quit, or colon WQ to write it and quit. You can add an exclamation mark to force it to quit. Top set index hint is top set index. Okay. I would say just make sure that the graphics pipeline number 1 has a top in set 1. Why? Why more complications suddenly? I had figured it out. I had it all figured out, and now suddenly I see this pipeline swap, and if I don't do it, then that doesn't work anymore. What the hell? Doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense because they get past the same vector at the moment, and the order in which I execute these things should also not matter. In other words, if I put this below the other one, then the code is exactly the same, except that I swapped pipeline 0 and 1. And that execution should not make any difference. Which I will check, just in case, but shouldn't. And it doesn't. So no, I disagree that swapping these pipelines can have any difference. It cannot have any difference. So what happens if I just comment out the swap, only the swap? Ah, right. I see what I missed. I commented out the whole bloody block, which means that mgraphics pipeline done is never set. So what I should have done is comment out this, but not where I set it boolean to true. That was kind of stupid. Great. No, show me a wrong one. I would be greatly disappointed if now it just always works. Of course not. Okay, so this is nonsense and can be deleted. Yeah, and this check is also nonsense. Or nonsense, but let me remove it. The appeared one, yeah, it's I'm writing a Vulkan engine, and well, one that generates well, that takes a lot of work out of the user's hands, put it that way. Right now I'm working on the part where it generates GLSL declarations of shader resources, among which generation of the set indexes and the binding numbers. Probably it doesn't tell you anything, but I just gave an answer anyway to prove that it doesn't tell you anything. Okay, so I'm going to let's try it again. Yes, sort of. The emphasis is more on automating things than on writing a game engine. Okay, I bet it still works. Let's have a look at the README again. So I want to move this thing here. And I want it to be put in the pipeline. Now at this point it is being assigned. Do I know the pipeline at this point? I'm afraid not. So I can move it, but if I move it, then it's out of sight of this function, which is yeah, makes it impossible to make it compile. So maybe I should first do something else, namely move the call to create uniform buffers out of this lambda. So these are this is a callback that's being done as soon as I have the set binding map, which is this map here. So that's a map per pipeline factory. So you see this column here is one factory, and this is another factory, creating two pipelines. And one of them rinse race, it's just a race condition, and that uses the identity, and the other then adjusts itself to, yeah, whatever we have here. And only after I know how to adjust itself, I can create the pipeline, because, well, it just the set indexes are a function of that. But what I really want to do in this lambda is compile my shaders. And I had moved this up the last stream because I thought I'm going to do this call here to create uniform buffers, and then have that fixed set binding map. But during my walk through the forest after that, I decided that that's not the right approach. I'm going to delete this, move it down again, but then I'm not even going to do it here. I'm just going to do I'm going to do it after whatever causes this lambda to be called. Why am I making a copy here? Let's see, this pointer is characteristic range. M set binding map part of the characteristic range. Yep. And why am I keeping that copy again? This is a pointer. This is a pointer. This is that pointer, which is part of a shared resource declaration context, which is set by a call to set binding map. Anyway, this one is only used by calling set binding map. Grep project resources set binding map. Holy match. Now I'm looking for a function. It's not being used. Whoa. Seriously? No, I don't think so. X. Now it's being used, but not really, because this is set binding map. Seems that this is not being used. Okay, do we still compile now? And do I still compile if I remove this thing or rename it? I can turn off the music. Most people like it, but you don't like the music? Okay. Actually, I want to listen to it. I'll just turn this down. Bloop. And then my private music. Hi Demir. I tried it seriously even later, and no, I deleted it. It was horrible. Okay, this compiles. Which means that thank you, Mr. LPZ Stefan. I think I'm gonna get rid of this because it's not being used. I mean, apart from that, I could not get a new Vim to work or an editor like it. The whole thing was just horrible. Okay, now I want this part to be called after calling these callbacks. think I can already delete it. So now this callback just compiles the shaders. I'm going to look for where that is being called, and it is being called from here. So if I add it back here, that's the same thing, right? Except that this won't compile. Yeah, Brad, did you look at GitHub, or do you mean what you see on the screen here? I have not pushed to GitHub in a long time. I'm guilty of that because the uniform buffer stuff is just not working. So I'm saving up. It has been a long time since I pushed to GitHub. You probably mean this kind of comments here. Yeah. It's Chinese, isn't it, Mr. Brett? Okay, let's see. I have here a call to the shader input data. Now, kind of seems silly to do that here anyway, because, well, either we call create uniform buffers or we don't. If we do, we need it, and if we need it, we pass it, and otherwise I'm just destroying this vector again. So I might as well move this into the function, and well, at least at first I think I will do that because it's complex enough as it is. Right, so delete, and then I go to this function here, and then instead of passing it, I am going to, well, for now let's add it at the top, because that would be the same order of execution then. And then at least I have the name, because instead of the argument I'm now going to use this local variable. And I have the shader resource again, because it's being passed. I don't know how yet, but it is going to be passed. And then of course we are not going to pass this argument here. Okay, I did something wrong here. Back up. That's the whole thing. Starting from here. Guess this does not fit on one line. Nope. Now the set binding map was passed to this callback, so we still have it. Ta-da. But we do not have this, and we do not have this, and we do not have this. Well, actually you do have this. It's just a member function pointer. But I need a window and I need the shader input data. And the last one is it's the hardest one, I think. Well, I have an owning window. That would be good enough. But I don't have the type window. Ouch. I definitely do not have that. I definitely do not have that. Nope. I also want to get rid of the call once, by the way. Now, in the end, I'm going to do something very difficult, namely using a broker task. But because that is very difficult, I'm going to start with simply blocking solution, which is not a solution. I hate blocking. But that's what I'm going to do. So dirty trick again. So I'm a fix me. Don't use mutex. Everyone understands that you should not use mutex, so don't use mutex! Exclamation mark. Instead use a broker task. I don't know what this thing is defined. I have a broker, task broker, whatever. For now, I'm just going to make a mutex here. I need another static. Okay, this is really hackish. Do not look at this code and think that you should ever do this. It's ridiculous, really. I just want to get something to work. So I just make a random static mutex and a boolean, and then lock the mutex, and then we check if we are first. The thread that gets the lock first sees that first is true. It sets it to false. The next thread hangs until the first thread exits here and unlocks the mutex, and then the second thread gets the lock and sees that first is now false, so it doesn't do anything. But it was blocked until the first thread finished. That's what I wanted to do here. It's called panic attack. Did you guys hear a voice? 3 down, fix me. Okay, I think this is included in the above fix me. I'm not going to do a static call once anymore. I'm just going to call this thing. And I have nothing but the base class, unfortunately. This was this pointer. And then I have to pass the shader frag index and the set binding mark we have, but the first 2 arguments we still don't. But let's first make this work. So create uniform buffers now must be a virtual function. We got a lot of those. That's a magic keyword here, automatically. In the end, the user should do nothing. It's kind of like those AIs that draw images. You just say, okay, draw a cute dog on a motorcycle biking through New York. And then the AI draws a whole artistic picture. That's basically what I'm trying to do here too. The user says something simple in a few lines, and then my engine generates everything that is necessary to get that working. And it should not involve the user having to create uniform buffers. But okay, at the moment we still do that. And I'm using a virtual function to get there. Now, how do I get my shader frag index? What the hell is that? The whole thing doesn't even make any sense. Frag is an abbreviation, which I hate. And if it means anything, it means fragment. It would be fragment shader. I don't know what this is doing here. But before I was calling this from here. Now I might as well go to really? It cannot have been it. This must be the one. Yeah, I copied it from there. Right. Quit all. Gotta be kidding me. Oh, builder. Build share. That is the shader frag index. Makes no sense. That would be the shader code. Who cares about that? What? Oh, that's used for this horrible hack. Let's add a fix me here, fix me, so you can see it. It's a horrible hack here. The horrible hack is doing something for which it needs a shader frag index. And now I don't have the shader frag index anymore. So then the question becomes, how can I do this horrible hack in a different way? Do I even need it? Well, this is a hack anyway, and I think that it is always 1 at the moment. There is no race condition going on here. So I might as well use the horrible hack that I do not figure out what it is, but I just hard-coded. How about that? Trying to remember. I think the it's 1. Why is it 1? Yeah, it's just 1. It's just 1. Okay, so let's get rid of that. I hate the word actual. My rule of thumb is that whenever you use the word actual, you can just not use it. And when I watch a YouTube where someone is using that word every sentence, I just have to turn off. At some point, I only hear them say actual, and I'm like, stop saying that word. But now suddenly I'm tempted to use it. Maybe I am using it in the correct context. So let me think about it after I type it. So I wanted to type, find a way to find the actual texture binding. Yeah, I have to say that maybe this is an exception where that word is not bad to be used. Now, if I would say, I think that this is actually the correct use of the word actual, then I make the mistake. Then I should say, I think this is the correct way to use the word actual. Just leave out that actually. I'm gonna leave it in. So we have to find the texture binding here, but for now I'm just going to hard code it with the 1. Oh, and that means that I do not have to pass the shader frag index anymore, of course. Which I then also have to change in the base class. Okay, I'll try to do this one fast. How do you do this in one? No, I can do this with one. That's the problem. It's hard to gamble how many you need. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that's even the comma. And the E is also not good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that would work. So I could do D8E. Actually, I said actually, shit. I wanted to delete the comma as well. Okay, just shader input data has been left here that we need to pass. Whoops. Nexus, did you ask a question that I didn't see, or what is it? Nope. Just saying dude. Are you saying dude or are you saying dude? VI window. Where's my other file? Yeah, where do I get the shader input data from? If memory serves, this is a member of the characteristics range, and we are in the middle of we are on the middle of a multi-loop of many characteristic ranges. To make it simple. And there is only one range that is allowed to have this. No, it's not true. Every characteristic has it. Am I crazy? And this is arch. Well, there is one good thing about it, and that is that if I jump to this shader input data, it says, fix me. is this correct? This way a shader input data, okay, this way we have a shader input data per characteristic range. Question mark, exclamation mark. In other words, the fact that now I run into the fact that there are multiple shader input data and I don't know which one to use tells us something, I think. It tells us that this fix me was right on the money, or what is the expression? I would say it is correct, but it says, is this correct? And then I would say, the fix me is correct. No, that's confusing. Shader input data has, the shader input data has so many things. It collects stuff about almost everything. Vertex attributes, push constants, and so on and so on. I think it's, what is it used for? I mean, the whole name is not correct. Shader input data. And then nobody understands anymore what it contains. It's just too much. I have to refigure out what shader input data is being used for, so I can rename it so it's better understandable. Finally, I think that I just learned it from the internet. C++. Well, it's not entirely true, but I started with a map, you know, really printed on paper something with a C++ course. And I worked through that for during 3 months, but that was before the internet, so you might as well use learncpp.com now. And then just start coding and never stop anymore. Sacrificing your social life and everything. And then in a few decades, you will be here as well, I guess. All happy, without friends and without a life partner. No, I'm just kidding. Although, not really, but I don't know. I bet there is there are good C++ programmers here and there that actually have a social life, aren't? No? Yeah, so what I said was I want to find out what this is used for, used by. And that is not easy. Now this is private, that's nice. Private, private, private. Almost everything is private. Here we have some public shit. Oh, I see it. Okay, yes, yes, yes. Add vertex input binding. This is what the user calls to tell the engine per characteristic what it has. I have a push constant, I have a texture, I have a uniform buffer. Now build shader is not being called by the user. These add functions might be pretty special. So the build shader is definitely per pipeline. For a given pipeline, you need to compile the shaders. So while it's building a pipeline, it calls also build shader. Preprocess is at the same level. Insert. If that's called by GLSLID full is used in, then that's being called during preprocessing, so all falls in the preprocess range. Push constant ranges is an accessor, so who cares who is calling it. Realize descriptor set layouts is okay. That is used to create pipeline layout. So everything has to do with creating pipelines, if you ask me. Descriptor set layouts. Yep. More accessors. Let's move that one accessor a bit down. What is it doing all alone here? Because it accesses whatever is added here, maybe. Yeah, it's kind of confusing, I must say. Most things seem to have to do with setting the stage for a pipeline construction. Well, also descriptor layouts and pipeline layout. But the flat create info is already doing that. So now it's competing with another class. So then what is the big difference between those two? The flat create info is being used to merge things from different pipeline characteristics. And then what is this? A vector is a dynamic array, so I just use it to store things, of which I do not know how many I will have. Yeah, this whole thing is a bit fucked up because I just don't know. I did not write any test yet that uses more than one characteristic. And I also did not write anything that uses characteristic ranges. So I have nothing to test with. And that makes it super confusing. It's not unlikely I have to tear this class apart in different classes and then put them in different places. But I won't know until I try, I think. to use multiple pipeline characteristics. Now I would say that these adds here are yeah, it's too much. I think instead of looking at the whole thing, I just should look at the thing that I really need. It's not just it's not the whole shader input data that I need to make a decision about. I just need to know why create uniform buffers needs shader input data. That might be a lot easier to understand. Well, then it might be easier to understand what to do. Exactly, that's what I mean. This is a different function already. So the only reason I'm passing this is because of these things at the top here. After this, there is no shader input data anymore used. Yep. So what I'm using it for is to get this, get a Vulkan handle vector with descriptor set layouts, and get a set index hints. From each of my shader resources. And it's even dubious if I need that, I must say. So the get set index hint gives me and a result of MC, the resource set key to set index hint. which is added to by add uniform buffer, and that's it. Yeah, it is. It is. Okay, I don't know why, but that was very funny. Yeah. And anonym lulz. Very funny. You can exit Vim with double colon, and then you can press W Q in order to write what you changed, or just Q exclamation mark if you don't want to write your change. So every call to add uniform buffer creates a set index hint for the given uniform buffer, which implies a mapping from the existing key to that hint, which must be stored somewhere. Also, every call to add uniform buffer creates a shader resource declaration. So it stands for a declaration. It must need declaration. Just one. Really? Yeah, sort of. Add uniform buffer. Yes, I'm Dutch. You should have hit back. Dutch, not Deutsch. You will think it's the same language because it both starts with a D and end with CH. But it is totally different. Totally different. I'm so distracted by the chat, I'm going to turn it off, I think. Cannot think. Yes, it's 2030. Okay, I'm not looking at chat for a bit. At least I can think. I'll think out loud for those who not chat and just want to see me think, hear me think. That would also be better. This design might be horribly flawed. I have to admit it. And if it is, then that is the reason that I cannot get it look and feel clean, I think. So add uniform buffer is being called currently by the user of the engine. For example, this is an annoying thing. Yeah, so here we have shader input data and whatever that is, right? But the user here calls add uniform buffer and then passes an instance that it has in the window. In the window class. Window is almost the same as application here from the point of the view of application of the user. But more importantly, this is done inside the function initialize of the class uniform buffers test pipeline characteristic base, which is derived from Vulkan pipeline characteristic, which is derived from characteristic range, which has that M shader input data. Yeah, so it looks like per characteristic registration of certain shader resources. Maybe the whole design of the characteristics is not correct. I did it in a pretty early stage already. And I had no clue then, so... So the idea is that different pipeline characteristics must be orthogonal. If I pronounce that correctly. Orthogonal. Meaning that only one characteristic can register a given uniform buffer instance, like M top buffer. If this same thing would be registered from two different characteristics, that's definitely an error. So if every characteristic has its own M shader input data, then in each M shader input data we would get unique shader resources added. Moreover, I think one of these is being filled from here, right? Let's see. This is both M shader input data, this one and this one. Yeah, but by adding uniform buffer, I also will, let's say, initiate the creation of a descriptor set layout, which is then added to this. So in the end, adding this top buffer to this shader input data, it's going to add something to the flat create info, a descriptor set layout. Okay, I'm stopping my own music as well. I don't know, I don't want to have music right now. I'm not sure what the shader stage create infos are. But okay, that might also be updated. I don't know. The point is that those that are merged in the end. So suppose, like in this case, I have I use the same shader input data instance of the same characteristic, that object that we are now in, to add both the top buffer and the left buffer. And those then independently cause an addition to the descriptor set layout thing of the flat create info. And if I would have two different characteristics with two different shader input data, the top would be added, say, to one of them, and then the left will be added to another. Then they would still both be added. They just get merged. Okay, let's see what I'm exactly adding here. Sorted descriptor set layouts. So that's this one. That is being added to by also push back descriptor set layout binding. Not again. Who's it this time? No. Yeah, okay, not like that. So the thing that I just mentioned, what was it? This one. Okay, it's called generate one. Oops. Which is called by preprocess 1. It is called by initialize. Okay. So if an initialize adds a shader resource, well, in this case, not the texture actually, but just add uniform buffer, then that causes something to be added to the sorted descriptor set layouts, because initialize is also calling the preprocess 1, all in the same function. Yeah, okay. On one hand, I don't know, man. It's super difficult. How about this one? Share stage create info. That's being added to by build share. Oh, those are the modules. Compiled modules. Yeah, that's being called later. The callback is being added here, but it is called later after a mapping is known. That's kind of weird, really weird, I must say. The set index mapping, why would that only be known inside the multi-loop? Can that change? Don't think so. Factory. So here the lambda is being called because now we have the set binding map after a call to realize pipeline layout. And the pipeline layout might change as a function of what? It is being passed realized descriptor set layouts and sorted push constant ranges, which are filled here from the flat create info. And yes, so they might change because we're calling fill and update on them. Well, update doesn't do much, but fill. So is fill allowed to change one of these things? Get realized descriptor set layouts. Well, the way it is coded now, it's no way to change it. Super annoying, I have to admit. Call this once. But theoretically I could replace it, I guess. Set it to null again and then set something else. Different descriptor set layouts. That also feels very unlikely, doesn't it? Add descriptor set layouts. The pointer doesn't change, but I could change the content of this thing. Theoretically. Even if it doesn't make sense, let's keep all flexibility in there. So let's say even in a range, the pipeline layouts might change. I'm in favor of allowing everything to change. Just maximum flexibility. And that means that, yeah, it's still a single pointer. That's slightly annoying, but okay. If I ignore that, then whoever called this has something that might be updated inside a given characteristic. Okay, so we're only allowed to call this function once, but I can change within this characteristic this vector, which I'm adding here as a non-const reference, non-const pointer, because it has a non-const reference returning thing, and then convert it to a non-const pointer. And then in this case, it is being filled in the initialize because I don't have a range. And what did I say? It was being filled by the call to preprocess 1, right? So here. But theoretically, I could move this to a fill. And then do something else every time the fill is called. Okay, that's far away, but theoretically that is possible, and therefore shader input data should be part of the characteristic. But yeah, so what did I just say? Now it has to come together, all this nonsense, or I'm going to scream and give up. Oh, just kidding. I need to go to the factory. Okay, so I have here I need access to this thing here. No, I don't see it. I do not see it. Yeah. The shader input data must be a member of characteristic. I call add uniform buffer on of or from a characteristic. That links that uniform buffer to that shader input data. And I need to use that shader input data per creation of the uniform buffer. That is the solution. So let me write it down before I forget it. Something like that. So what is happening here is I'm calling add uniform buffer as a member function of mshader input data. And that should then later allow me to create this uniform buffer from the pipeline factory. Now this is user code, so I do not want to make that unnecessary complex. So I'll have to change the add uniform buffer itself, I think. The flat create info is not really known here. Well, it's this pointer, of course, of the shader input data. So the shader input data couldn't have a pointer back to its flat create info owner. Might need that. It does currently not have that, I think. What? Characteristic range. Yeah, I wanted to go here. Well, let me approach this from here. So I'm calling add uniform buffer. already a lot of changes. Maybe I should commit something that is more or less stable-ish. Oh yeah, this is broken as well. Damn it. I'm gonna look at that later. Can do that one. And this is okay. That was a good change. This is a lot. Yeah, I'm kind of working on this. I'm not committing too often. Often enough, I mean. But yeah, I don't know. It's just committed. I don't know. No, maybe I should not have. Let's not commit this, because I'm really working on it. So I added one thing too much. Let's reset that again. So on this one, right? That's how I split. What? Oh, even that. Okay. Create uniform buffers. Yeah, so let's reset this, unstage it. Changes. I don't know. Right, so now my div is a little bit smaller, although this is still the big one, and then I have here removing the copy of the map. Thought I had added it. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so git add -p new split. Yes, quit. Veep. And then so I call add uniform buffer. That does something. Seems I need access to the pipeline factory object from the add uniform buffer. So I'm in the shader input data. might as well start with adding a pointer to the owning characteristic then, which I'm pretty sure it doesn't have yet. No constructor. Doesn't have a constructor. Well, add one, I guess. Eh? Error, user undeclared identifier shader input data. Oh, right, yeah, I'm working on that. Impatient compiler. Amigu has it as well. Oh, that's sockage, I think. Maybe I can just pass nothing, then we don't have an owner, but I have to take into account the shader input data object needs no owns it. Well, this is exactly the opposite. I just pass the owner and I pass it a null pointer. Guilty until proven otherwise. Did I pass a null pointer? Maybe not. this argument to a member function get something as type const, but function is not marked const. Interesting. Why is it not marked const? To input data, get something. Looks totally const to me. More errors. User undeclared, yeah, still. And then here, no matching constructor for initialization of, yeah, so that wasn't a null pointer, I guess. Well, then now it is. Again, from Linux viewer application. Okay, then that's the final error. Yeah, let's think. So now the shader input data knows who is its characteristic owner. And then I need the characteristic range to know who is the factory that is using it or owning it. It's definitely also owning, yeah. Okay, so the factory adds, we add a characteristic passing this pointer even, which is the window. So the add characteristic must inform here it is created. Owning window, pipeline, factory, add characteristic, new characteristic. Right. Could hijack this add. Set the owner later, because the moment I created, I do not know yet what the pipeline factory is, maybe. Although, yes, I do, because it is just simply this pointer. Could split that up, pass it to the constructor. There is a downside to that, however, because it is forwarding the arguments that are being passed after a window. Who is calling add characteristic again? The user. Yeah, I don't want to mess with that. I mean, that means that this is a user class, which doesn't have a constructor. Oh. But it could have a constructor. Yeah. And I would be messing with that. Let's not do that. So instead, let's just hijack that add. So that would be the add function on, yeah, whatever pipeline factory is returning, which is a pipeline factory, obviously. And that is having an add, which gets passed and boost intrusive pointer to a characteristic range. And then we have here the add. So here it is. And now I want to tell the characteristic, which is the characteristic range, which it just moved. I can add it before I move it. It is slightly easier, I guess. It's non-const. Set owner this. Right. So I need to add a set owner to the characteristic range and then add a pipeline factory. Not sure I want that to be protected. It's even non-const. Let's add it here for safety. Right, and then we have a sorry, do that owning factory. It's more like what I use elsewhere. Then, yeah, we have that as well. So now I can add to the do I want an accessor for this? Probably. I'm not sure yet. I don't want to give access to just everything. Especially when you can, again, you know, if you could add an accessor without thinking about it twice to begin. Because it doesn't allow to change anything. It's just an accessor. But if I add an accessor to owning factory, I get a non-const pointer to the pipeline factory. And that is dubious. It's more like something that should only be accessed by the pipeline factory itself. So it's a sort of single-threaded access. Then there must be controls. Right, so I'm having this fix me here somewhere. This one. So I need to access the factory here. And I have the characteristic, which is called owning characteristic, range even. Going to use that to get the factory. And then we have to assume that the add uniform buffer is being called on whoever has access to the shader input data. And that is a protected member of the characteristic range, which means that that has to be a base class of the characteristic range, which means it must be either in the initialize function or in the fill function, which is called from the pipeline factory, and therefore this is only called by the pipeline factory, and therefore it is okay to access it. It's more like the factory that is calling this code. That's what we access here, and that is totally thread safe. But in order to let this class access that, I have to make it a public function, and then anyone can access it. So I'm going to use a trick. I'm going to use a badge. This is a badge, and that gives access. Okay, so in a minute that will become more clear what I mean with that when I add the accessor. Anyway, what do I want to call here on the factory? Also add uniform buffer, I guess. With enough information to create it. Well, for one thing I need to pass the shader input data. Probably also this. Let's pass both. For now, maybe more, I don't know. Let's keep it at this for now. We can hope. Okay, so now I need to add this public accessor without making it really public. And we do that as follows. Go to characteristic range. And I add a accessor with this thing. I'm going to make it public, but for now I'm adding it here. So there is a pipeline factory pointer owning factory, was it? Oh, I don't know anymore. Yes, it was. Const return owning factory. Let's make it public. Do I already have other accessors? Nope. Oh, here, yes. Oops. Like that, but I only wanted to give it access to utils batch, and then this is the, what was it? Shader input data, right? I have no idea what namespace we are in now. We are now in pipeline. I don't think that shader input data is there. Shader input data is in also in pipeline. You gotta be kidding me. Okay. So the way this works is that at the moment I call owning factory and I pass brace open, brace close. It's going to try to use the default constructor of this argument here. And batch is such that it disallows creation. It has a private constructor, but it makes its template arguments a friend. So only the shader input data can create this. And therefore nobody can call this function except from shader input data. Ta-da! How cool is that? Okay, so owning criteria. Yeah. Okay, let's run ctext again. Now I get even more compile errors, I think. Unknown type name pipeline factory. Did you mean task pipeline factory? Yeah. In this day and age where AI can draw photorealistic images just by a line of text, my compiler is not able to understand what I meant. I mean, how much intelligence do you need to just fix this? I don't think people are really trying to improve certain things. They're just interested in controlling the world. That's what AI is going to be used for. Unknown type name pipeline factory. Did you mean task pipeline factory? And so on and so on and so on. How many other things did I add? How many times did I add pipeline factory without task in front of it? And indeed, now we have two errors as expected, namely the old one plus the new one, which says we do not have an add uniform buffer in task pipeline factory. Well, let's add it. So I'm going to add first a header, I guess, and then we need an add uniform buffer with I have no idea what the arguments are here. Yeah, 468. I don't think it picks it up. Next, 468. Okay, not bad. Maybe it was because we already were here the last time in this file. So yeah, I need an add uniform buffer, and it needs to be public, I guess. Let's go to next. Previous, capital N, previous. Very obvious. Inside task, is it pipeline factory is not a template. No, I just need to add it here. I'm going to add it here, I think. Add uniform buffer. And then the arguments are first at this pointer. So that's a shader input data pointer. And that sits in, we're now inside task, I think. So yeah, I need a full namespace. Shader input data, shader input data. I'm gonna guess that the const reference will do. Oh, it's a pointer. Anyway, let's keep it const until proven otherwise. Shader input data. And the second argument was the uniform buffer argument, which is this type. Which also has to start with Vulkan. Okay. And then I have to implement it. Pipeline factory. Okay, where shall I put it? It's at the bottom here, isn't it? Almost, yeah. Let's put it at the bottom, but before detach, oh, that's inline. So just let's put it at the bottom. Multiplex, let's not put it at the bottom. Let's put it behind the add anyway. Pipeline factory. Let's see if it compiles now. No, it doesn't. I still have that one error. But the rest compiles. Yeah, the big trick is that now I'm going to have the factory create uniform buffers. So the user doesn't have to do it anymore, and we don't have to call this anymore. Not at all. Going to delete it. No mutex needed, nothing. It's just going to be created magically. Haha. Really? It's not that simple, I'm afraid, but theoretically probably have to add the task broker anyway. Painful amount of work. Can I first create a hack now that I get that shader input data information from somewhere? Or is that too much to ask? We should do it clean. Let me see, what is the trick here? The trick is, the main trick I think is that I really have to use my task capabilities. Do I not? It calls something, we get here, I know it has to be done, I do it. But, yeah, this thing is single threaded. So what am I worried? One of the big tricks is, by the way, we are in the middle of one of my biggest inventions, which is AI stateful task. So the pipeline factory is a task, right? I mean, how do we know that? Because it is derived from AI stateful task, which is 10 years work or something like that. And that demands that I implement a few virtual functions. So it has, you have to define the states that it will go through. I have the states here. Can extend them, add more of them if I want. And then a few virtual functions, so we see here. And the most important then is the multiplex implementation, which executes the task. And well, in steps, you just do a switch on the argument, and then all of those states that you saw. And each state is being executed until you call break, and then the thread disappears back into the thread pool. Unless the task is still running, of course, then it immediately returns. And you can do simple things like change the state. So in this case, when we do start, we create a new task, run that task. Set that next we will want to continue with the pipeline factory initialize, which is here. But we don't want to continue until the pipeline cache is set up. So this says wait for the pipeline cache setup. Doesn't block, this just sets a bit in a bit mask. So it's ultra fast. And the thread just leaves this function. And but because you did call this wait, then it doesn't get CPU anymore until the cache this task is finished and sets this flag because it is finished. If you call run with blah blah blah, then it is gonna signal this flag when it is finished, and that causes then this task to run again, entering this function at this point. Because now the run state is going to be this, because you set it. So that way you can execute pieces of code one by one without that the thread actually has to block, or really block on a mutex or go to sleep or whatever horrible. And I'm going to use that here now also for this stuff. Because you can see here it says do not use mutex. I do not want to have to wait for things, and I think I cannot even wait. This is nonsense. This whole mutex thing was nonsense. What we have is two different pipeline factories, and those are both a task. So I have two different tasks. One of the benefits of a task is also that it is virtually single-threaded, and there is only one thread at a time executing a given task object. So I did have two objects, two tasks, which could simultaneously call this function. But there is only one thread at a time that actually gets at this code. So, okay, it's a static thing. It would still block. Yeah, okay, yeah. Because it is static, it would still block if another one gets here. But we don't want to do that. Definitely not. Now what is going to happen is that one of the pipeline factories is going to get that create uniform buffer call that I still have to implement. And we're going to register that in the pipeline factory. And then we get here and we have to create it. But the other pipeline factory also gets that call. And I only want to create it once. So we have again a sort of a race condition. Whoever is first gets it. So it's not that trivial. Plus, if one of them is first, then the other one does have to wait. Except I don't want it to block. So that's why I have to split this then up into a different state, I think. And there's a return there. That might not be easy because this is in the middle of a multi-loop. I cannot break it here, I think. It's in the middle of a scope. We cannot escape my switch and then return there. It's in the middle of a for loop, in the middle of a while loop, in the middle of an if. That is not going to work, unfortunately, unless I change everything here into yeah, make it even so much more complicated, I guess, such that I can do that. It kind of is already doing that, if you ask me. It says here, each time we enter from the top and range counters finish should be false. Well, that means that this is true. So we get inside of here. Why does it say it is therefore the same as entering at the bottom of the while loop at a star? Actual entry point of the state. All right, yeah. If we were entering here, then it would go to the top of the while loop. So that is the same thing as entering from the top. It's already a bit hackish. Okay. I think that's what we're looking at anyway. That if I get here, I need to one factory create a uniform buffer. You would say that is strange though. Why add it to two factories? Yeah, well, no, okay, yeah. Okay, I needed to add it multiple times, but it just needed to be created once. And only after creation I can update the descriptor set or bind the descriptor set to a shader resource. So I create a shader resource, then we bind it. And only after I bound it, we can continue running the other. Yeah, it's definitely complex, definitely complex. I do need a way to escape here. To escape my switch here and then enter at the same point. So I need a fake while loop. I can get rid of this scope. It's not a very important scope. But we have this if here as well. Difficult. Right. Yeah, I'm gonna do that tomorrow. It gets too complicated. Need a fresh day. Well, tomorrow I get a visitor, so I probably don't have time for that. Although he's leaving early in the evening, and so I can just, yeah, tomorrow evening then. It is beyond me that I have 65 viewers. I wasn't looking at the chat, let alone at the number of viewers. Can't be the music, and I'm not playing music. Okay, to recap, this is a function that we enter. Use a switch to enter this case. And at the moment that the thread, or I would rather call it the task, should wait, I want to be able to just leave the function, get back, switch, and use a case to enter where I was waiting. Now I have to wait here. Why? Because it is possible that some other factory is busy creating my uniform buffer, after which it will bind it to the descriptor set, and we need it to continue and then do something. So we get here, we say, are we the first? I'm just going to create a task broker and then ask a task broker, give me a task to do something, and then that will tell it that some other task is already doing it, and then we have to wait. Anyway, that construction I already wrote before, so I can just copy it. But that means that I need to escape the function here, while we are in the middle of an if, and in the middle of a while, and in the middle of a for. so that it's not that easy to enter again. So the only way to do that is by not being in the middle of a for and a while, etc. So I can add a case here, which means I have to mimic the for and the while and the if with variables in the object. Now you see that we already have m range counter. This is not a for loop with a local counter. This is a member object, and this too, and this too, and this too, and this too. So how can I make that work? I am going to think about that the next time, okay? And then once that works, I can return to fixing this block. Probably immediately going for the task broker and everything. So we have to make a new task, which is a lot of work. And that task is then going to have as a task to create a shader resource. Maybe I'm going to just make it create a uniform buffer first, instead of making it general immediately, because God is difficult already. And once I've done that, I can return to the problem that I was trying to fix. Why exactly is then that problem closer to being solved? Oh yeah, because the first one that actually creates the uniform buffer and does the descriptor set update will then tell the next one, which has been waiting for that, how to reorder the these links between the descriptor set index and the allocated descriptor sets. So in this case, then say this one won and just generated this, then this one will say, okay, then I have to swap A1 and A2. And then the problem is solved, because that then leads to a, that's not an L. Oh, that leads on to swap of left and bottom, or swap back rather. I estimate that this is going to take days, which is way too long, of course, because I'm already a month over time for the uniform buffer shit. But yeah. Eventually I'll get there, unless I die first. Guys and girls,